The first red pen mark appeared on my midterm essay. A jagged circle around the word ambition, bleeding through the page. Professor Vane's note beneath it read, "Unfocused. See me." His office smelled like mothballs and stale coffee, the walls papered with student transcripts and surveillance camera stills. I thought they were research materials until I spotted my own face in one. Timestamp from the night I'd skipped the library to kiss Jamie, behind the dining hall. He steepled his fingers when I sat down. "Your priorities," he said, sliding a new page toward me, "are inconsistent with your potential." It wasn't my essay. It was a list oct. Missed seminar to attend protest, oct. 10:43 minutes late to shift at campus radio nav. 2 called mother, lied about grades. My skin prickled. "How did you?" He clicked his pen. "Let's discuss revisions." The comments kept coming. Not on my papers, on my life. A sticky note on my dorm door. Excessive socializing. Trim 30%. A text as I waited for Jamie's train. Sentiment clouds judgment. Return to campus. I deleted it. But the train derailed 2 hours later. Coincidence, I told myself, even as the news showed twisted metal where his car should have been. Vane left a condolence card in my mailbox. Inside, a single red check mark. I dug through alumni forums, the air in the computer lab thick with the hum of fluorescent lights. Vane had been here decades, always in that cramped office, mentoring students who later vanished into bland, impeccable careers. Bankers, surgeons, speechwriters for politicians who never blinked. One former student's LinkedIn photo made me gag. Her smile was mine, the one I practiced in mirrors before interviews. I printed her profile. Vane's office was dark when I slipped inside, but his desk glowed with familiar green text. A live feed of campus security cameras. My dorm hallway. The gym, Jamie's empty hospital room. My breath fogged the screen as I clicked through files. Every student, every choice graded in real time. Liam Park. Beef reduced alcohol intake. Maria Cruz C. A suspected lesbianism unconfirmed. My cursor hovered over my name when the door creaked. "You're improving," Vane said, holding up my latest file. Withdrew from film club, ceased contact with mother, discontinued antidepressants. His teeth glinted in the monitor's glow. But still distracted, he stepped closer and I realized the smell wasn't mothballs. It was formaldehyde seeping from the framed degrees on his walls. "You resist structure." A common flaw. I backed into the desk, knocking over a jar of pens. Red ink pooled like blood. "Why?" I whispered his head. "He'd too've seen the news. The world is chaos. Weakness, panic, indecision. My evaluations cut the rot before it spreads." He gestured to the camera feeds. "Imagine it, a generation sculpted for survival. No wasted potential. No mistakes." My fingers brushed the fire alarm behind my back. "And if we refuse?" His sigh was almost pitying. "Then you fail." The sprinklers erupted, his monitor sizzling as I fled. For weeks, I mapped his patterns. Drank black coffee to stay alert. Scribbled notes in margins he wouldn't find. I applied for transfers, shredded receipts, wore gloves to delete browser history. But the red pens multiplied, one in my shower drain. Another taped to my windshield. Jamie called from rehab, voice frayed. He visited me. "New things, my dad's affair, my pills. Said you'd ruin me." That night, I found a graded rubric under my pillow. TD See me. I confronted him at the parking lot's edge, asphalt glistening with rain. "You'll never stop, will you?" He adjusted his scarf, calm as a surgeon. "Correction requires commitment." I stepped closer. "What if I disappear?" His laugh was a dry rustle. "You won't, you're too invested." The knife felt alien, my $9.99 campus store special. Buried in my bag since October, he didn't flinch. Violence, really, Claire. That's a creative approach. The blade shook. But let's consider the grade. I still don't remember swinging, just the hot spray on my cheeks, the gurgle as he collapsed, red seeping through his tweed coat. His final words, incomplete. The police found me scrubbing my hands in a gas station bathroom. No charges. Security footage showed him lunging first, they said. My scholarship's safe. My new advisor says I'm promising. But last night I opened my email to a draft from an unknown sender. Subject: final evaluation. Attached, a video of me sleeping. Timestamp 3 AM. Red text flashed. Growth evident but reliance on external validation concerning. Revision required. The screen glitched. When it cleared, my face stared back. Lips soon into Vaney's thin smile, grading a stack of familiar files. I shut the laptop. It's buzzing again now. I think I'll leave it. After all, I've always been good at meeting deadlines. The first red pen mark wasn't on my paper. It was on my wrist. Thin paper, cut scar from where I'd nervously frayed the edge of my essay. Professor Vale noticed it during our session, his glasses glinting like surgical tools under the flickering fluorescence of his office. "Careless," he muttered, circling the scar with his finger. His breath smelled like burnt coffee and mothballs. "You'll lose points for that." I laughed, assuming it was one of his dry jokes, until I saw my grade that evening, a bold C at the top and beneath it in cramped cursive. "Self-harm is a distraction from excellence." See me. He knew. About the midnight breakdowns, the nail marks on my palms during exams, the way I'd started skipping meals to study. I'd never told him. But the next essay came back with another note. "Your mother's cancer isn't an excuse for tardiness." My hands shook. Mom's diagnosis was a secret. I hadn't even told my roommate. I stormed to his office, but the door was locked, the window dark. A janitor shrugged. Vale's never here past 5. The following week, his critiques migrated beyond the page. I'd find his annotations in the margins of my apartment door. "Unwashed dishes attract failure." A voicemail dissecting my unprofessional posture during his lecture. My friends joked I was being haunted by a grade-obsessed ghost, but the terror was quieter, sharper. Vale wasn't supernatural. He was everywhere. In the library, his silhouette hunched over Carl's 3 rows away. In the grocery store, his voice crackling through the PA system, listing the nutritional sins in my cart. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. Every mirror showed his face flickering behind mine, gaunt and disapproving. The confrontation happened during finals week. I'd collapsed in a bathroom stall after pulling an all-nighter, my reflection a greasy smudge of exhaustion. The stall door creaked open without a knock. Vale stood there, a manila folder tucked under his arm. "You're late," he said, as though we'd scheduled this. I scrambled back, but he knelt, his tie brushing the filthy tiles. "You could be remarkable," he hissed, spreading the folder's contents between us. Photos of me crying in the library, receipts from the liquor store I'd visited once, a printed log of my keystrokes from the campus computer lab. "But you cling to weakness. Mediocrity." I ran. Didn't report him. To who? Campus security found no evidence of surveillance. No records of a Professor Vale teaching here. But his notes kept coming. A letter slipped under my door the night I dropped out, incomplete. "Try again next semester. Mom died in the spring. At the funeral, I found a bouquet of black roses with a card in that same cramped hand. Grief is not an A. Now I work at a gas station off Highway 9, where the lights are too bright and the security cameras hum like wasps. Sometimes, when the night shift drags, I'll see a shadow in the parking lot. A lean figure in a tweed coat, grating the oil stains on the asphalt. I don't sleep. I don't cry. I keep my nails short and my receipts shredded. Excellence, he once wrote, is the absence of everything that makes you human. Last week, a customer left a textbook in the restroom. Inside, circled in red, punctuality improved. But loneliness is a failing grade. I don't know how he gets in. The cameras never show him. But I'm starting to think he's right. The first time I noticed the red pen marks on my wrist, I thought it was a scrape from biking to campus. But the symbols weren't random. They matched the corrections Professor Voss had scrawled on my philosophy essay that morning. "Weak argument," he'd written in the margins. Now it pulsed on my skin like a fresh burn. I'd chosen him as my tutor for his reputation brilliant, relentless, a man who could dissect Kant before his first coffee. But his critiques soon bled beyond my papers. He'd linger after sessions, his voice soft as a scalpel. "Your posture suggests a lack of confidence, Clara. Your laugh is performative. These things matter." At first, I laughed it off. Academia was full of eccentrics. Then the emails started. They arrived at 3:17 a.m., always the same time, subject lines like hooray. "Your inefficient sleep scheduler," or "it required reading for emotional regulation." Attachments contained spreadsheets tracking my library logins. Timestamps of when I'd cried in the bathroom stall after his lectures. Once, a grainy photo of me buying energy drinks at the gas station, circled in red with the nota. "Caffeine dependency undermines intellectual rigor." I told myself it was a joke, a twisted mentorship. But when I found my apartment door ajar one evening, the deadbolt untouched, my notebooks fanned open on the kitchen table, his crisp, Cursive notes in the margins of my grocery lists. Processed food stunt cognition. I stopped sleeping. Campus security shrugged. He's tenured, kid. Unless he threatens you. But the threats weren't explicit. They were in the way he'd materialize behind me in the library. Smelling of bergamot and formaldehyde, murmuring, choice of friends is concerning. That art major unfocused. You'll stagnate. When I stopped answering Zoe's calls, he left a gold star sticker on my desk. The final warning came in the form of my own voice. I'd been recording lectures to catch nuances in his teachings, but the playback revealed whispers underneath his voice, layered like a palimpsest. Clara's empathy is a liability, Clara's curiosity is undisciplined. I scrubbed the audio, but the words clung, itching themselves into migraines. The night I confronted him, the humanities building was a carcass of flickering fluorescence. His office door creaked open before I knocked. Inside, shelves bowed under jars of preserved specimens. Not biological but personal, a faded teddy bear labeled sentimentality. A cracked smartphone screen, heck a distraction. A wilted rose pressed under glass, unrequited potential. His desk was a surgical theater of student essays, my latest draft centered beneath a magnifying lamp. You're early, he said, not turning from the window. Moonlight glossed his bald crown, the starched collar of his shirt. I'd hoped to finalize your evaluation before our meeting. What evaluation? My voice trembled. You're not my professor anymore. I withdrew. But education transcends bureaucracy. He faced me, his smile a hyphen. You've always understood that. Why else tolerate my attentiveness? The room tightened. I lunged for the essay, but his hand caught my wrist, thumb pressing the scarred weak argument mark. You're still making this personal, he sighed. This was never about punishment, it's curation. The world is cluttered with mediocrity. I prune what lacks promise. He gestured to the jars. They thanked me eventually. Growth requires discomfort. When I wrenched free, the drawer of his desk spilled open. Photos of Zoe, my parents, my high school boyfriend. Red ink connected them in a constellation of my failures. See how they anchor you, he said, advancing. Let me unburden you. I ran. Not to security, but to the parking lot, my car swallowing the road's hull. I didn't stop until state lines blurred. That was 3 months ago. The emails stopped. Zoe says she never got my panicked voicemail. My transfer application to another school was declined due to insufficient references. Tonight, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a jar of my favorite tea leaves, labeled reliance on external stimulants. And a note at distance: learning is permissible, but growth remains mandatory. Let's resume your studies. I checked the locks again and again.